Hello guys, and welcome to part 1 of a 3-part tutorial series that I'm putting together for Blender 2.9. We're going to be showing you step by step how to make a modern bathroom. So this is part 1 where I'm going to be showing you all of the modeling that is involved in making this scene here. So you can see this bathtub and just this faucet, some racks here, just this decorative wall here, just some really basic modeling going on here. But I think the overall final result is pretty interesting. So this is what I would call a relatively beginner-friendly tutorial. And I will be making this blend file available on my Patreon, which you guys can check in the description as well. So this is part 1, and keep an eye out for my channel for part 2 and 3 that are coming up as well. So if a new scene opened up in Blender, we're going to start by selecting our default cube. And to make things really easy, we're going to hit N. That's going to bring up our properties panel. So up here you can see. And we're going to come here to our item. And with this cube selected, you can see it is active. We're going to come over here to the scale vectors and we're going to type in some numbers here, and I'm just going to make things really easy. So what we want to do is we want to come to the first vector here, which is the X vector. And you can see here, this, if we're in the front view, this is the X axis here. So we're going to come here to the X and we want to make this exactly 4 meters. So we're going to type in 4. So it's now 4 meters. And then we want to take the Y axis here. So that's the Y here, and we're going to make that 7 meters. So type in 7. And then we want to make the height of our room here. In this case, I'm going to go for 2.7, which is the standard here where I live. So I'm going to type that in. So this is the height. Then we're going to hit 1. That's going to go into our front orthographic view. And with this cube or room still selected, we're going to go into edit mode. And with all of these vertices selected, we're going to go G, Z, and move it up till our bathroom here is sitting on that red axis line or on the floor here. Now you could hold in control for the clipping. So if I went G, Z, and I held in control, it'll clip, but it's not doing a very good job because of how I've scaled it for some reason. So I'm just moving it up manually till it's sitting right on that red line there. So just something like that should be fine. We're then going to go into our front view and just make sure it's the front. We're going to hit our face select option here and just select the front face here. And then we're going to hit X and we're going to delete that face. We're then going to make the window, which is really simple. So what we can do here is just go to the edge select option here, turn around to the other side. And with your cursor over here, we're going to go Control R. You're going to see a yellow line appearing. That is our loop cut. So we're going to roll our middle mouse button up once. That's going to add in 2 segments and then just double click. Those 2 cuts are now added in. And we're going to go S, X, and scale along the X. Now the width of your window is completely up to you, but I'm going to go with about something like this. So if you were to divide this up into quarters, okay, like this, it should be almost like this. So you can make a quarter, then another quarter, a quarter, and a quarter. So this is like 2 quarters right here. So just roughly something like that. And then we're going to come in here, Control R, and you can see a loop appearing, double click, and with this loop selected, we can just go G, Z, just go G, Z, and just move it up. Now the height of your window is also up to you. I'm just going to go with something roughly about here. Like I said, it's completely up to you. With some bathrooms, like it goes a bit higher, but it never really goes all the way to the ceiling. But with this window here, what we can do is we can go to our face select, and we don't actually have to create a bottom loop here as well. We can have one of those kind of modern windows where it goes all the way down, the window frame goes all the way down to the floor. So this is something you actually see in a lot of bathrooms today. So I'm going to select this face here, and then I'm going to hit E to extrude and then Y, and we're going to, I believe Y. So E to extrude and then Y, and it'll just extrude this guy out to about here. So we just want to move it about the thickness of a wall. Like I said, this could vary depending on what you're going for. We're just going to go with something about that much. Now we can hit X and just delete that face. So it doesn't really matter the outside here. We don't have to like create like a thickness to this wall because we're not going to be seeing the outside for this scene. So all we need to see is that. It'll kind of just give it the appearance of a wall there and just make it look like it's standing out. So that's fine. So this is pretty much the room done, but we can add some extra details here. So let's go to the face select option and just select these top 3 faces. I'm holding in shift while I'm selecting these. And then I'm hitting I, and the I key is going to inset this. So that's inset. So we're going to inset it just a little bit like that. And with those faces still selected, we're going to hit E, and that's going to extrude it down. We're going to extrude it down a little bit, just like that. So that's our ceiling. But this guy around here, so if we just deselect and we go Shift Alt, click on this corner here with face select, we can see we've loop selected all of these faces on the outside. And later on, we're going to give those guys an emission. And what it'll do is it'll create kind of like this modern rim lighting around the top, which is going to look really cool. So that's pretty much that done. In fact, we can bring those faces down a bit, just so they're a little bit closer, like that. So we can mess around with that a little bit later. Just for now, just leave it like that. Like I said, it really depends on what you're going for, the look. So for now, I believe that's all we need to do for this room. So let's just tab out of edit mode. And while we're at it, we're going to make a door frame here. Now you could add in a cube and extrude it a few times, but a simple way to make the door frame, I'll show you quickly. So actually we need to go back into edit mode. I think it'll just be easier this way. So just go to edge select again in edit mode here, and you can just go Control R, add in a loop cut here. And then with that loop cut selected, you can go Shift D and just duplicate it. And with that new duplication, you can hit P and then separate by selection, then tab out of edit mode. And now we have an edge here that is the exact dimensions of that inner window, which is exactly what we want. So we can select that guy, tab into edit mode, hit A to select all of these edges, and then hit E and then Y and extrude it out on the Y a little bit, like that. Once again, it really depends on what you're going for when it comes to frame thickness. Look at some reference images. But I'm just gonna go something like that, then hit A to select everything. I'm going to hit E to extrude, right click to let go, and then you can go Alt S and scale this guy in along its normals, just like that. And then you can hit E to extrude again, but this time right click and then go S, Y and scale it in on the Y. And then we're going to go E to extrude, and then we're going to go Alt and S and just scale this a little bit like that. And then we're going to hit E to extrude again, and then Alt S, S, Y, and scale it in on the Y a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in just so you can see what's going on here. And then once we've gotten that right, we can go E to extrude and then Alt S and scale it back in along the normals. So what we got here is a frame with a ridge in here like that, which is where the glass panel is going to be sitting inside. So that's kind of like just based on some frames that I've seen over the years. And I think that's pretty accurate. So we're just going to tab out of edit mode. So now we have our frame there. And just so it stands out a bit better, I'm going to go to my materials tab here. And I'm just going to get rid of this material here. Just go new. And I'm going to call this material frame. And just for now, this is not a materials part of the tutorial, but we're just going to go to our viewport display. Just make this material in the viewport a little bit darker, just so we can see it standing out. That just looks a little bit better. Now, as far as actually adding in a window plane, we'll get to that a little bit later. You might not even have to put it in, depends on what you're going for. So for now, we'll get started with actually making the bathtub itself. Now, to make the bathtub, we're going to simply go Shift A, and we're going to add in a cube. Go into your front orthographic view by hitting 1, and then go tab into edit mode, go G, Z, holding Control, and just move this guy up and snap it to the floor, the grid floor here. Then, with it still selected, we're going to go S, X, and 2. So S, X, 2. So we've scaled it along the X axis by a factor of 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our face select option here, select the top face only, then hit S to scale it out a little bit, and then G, Z, and bring it down like that. We're going to hit X and just delete that face. Now we're going to use a few modifiers to make our life a little bit easier. So let's just go to our modifiers tab here. We're going to give this guy a subdivision surface modifier. Don't be afraid to bump it up quite a bit. So we're going to bump the render up to free and in the viewport level to free as well. And then we're going to come in here, we're going to go Control R and then roll in 2 loop cuts. Double click and just add those in, just like that. And then we're going to come in here, Control R, double click, add in a loop, Alt S to scale it out along its normals. And then of course, Control R, add in a loop here. And then once you've added in, double G just to slide it down to the bottom, just to sharpen up that edge there. Once you've done that, we can also come here and let's give this guy a solidify modifier. And let's come here to this thickness amount and just bring it up. And now you can go as thick as you want, but just find something that's realistic. So I'm going to go with something about, let's just make it 0.1, just to keep things simple. That seems to work quite well. And let's just minimize this here just to make things a little bit more organized. But at the moment, that's just looking way too sharp. So what we can do is give this guy a bevel modifier. But of course, that's going to apply the bevel to everything, which is just not efficient. It doesn't look good either. So we need to come here to the limit method and let's set it to angle. And now it won't let anything under 30 degrees have a bevel, which is going to only add it to these sharp corners here. So we can now come here and mess around with this amount here. So this is completely up to you, but I'm just going to go with something like, let's just do 0.5, should be fine. And then we can just bump up the segment count here and tab out of edit mode. Let's go to object and enable shade smooth in object mode. Okay, so we can also just come to the subdivision surface modifier and bump up these two here as well, just to make it really, really smooth. In fact, we can also, another thing you can do if you want, is actually just bump these down. So this is another method. And then on top of the bevel here, if you want, you can also add a subdivision surface modifier. So you can pick between those two methods, whichever one works for you. Personally, I think this latter one here works quite well. So there we have kind of like a modern ceramic bathtub, looks really good. But now we just need to move it into place. So let's just select this bathtub, hit Z, and then go into wireframe mode. It's obviously going to make things a bit easier. Then we're going to hit 3 to go into our right orthographic view, and then G, and then hit Y, and we're going to move this bathtub along the Y axis over to our wall here, our window. And you can see here, that is where we've now placed it. So you can like mess around with that as much as you want. I wouldn't recommend moving it too far away from the window. It just doesn't look that good. So keep it as close as you can, but not too close. So the scaling here is pretty good. This is about the scale of a modern large bathtub, and so is this room here for a large bathroom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to model the modern water feature here that lets the water come into the bathtub. So this is going to be one of those really modern ones. It's just like one straight one that comes out and then bends into the tub. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So we're going to start by going Shift A. And let's just add in a simple cube here. And with this cube selected, we're just going to go S to scale that guy down. And let's just go about this much for now. You can actually see here on the transform vectors what that actually is if you want to make it exactly the same as me. And then I'm going to go S, Y, and scale it out on the Y about that much. Then I'm going to tab into edit mode, go to face select here, select only the top face, and then hit I to inset it. Just a little bit, and then S, X to scale it down on the X, just to create this guy here. And then we're going to hit E to extrude, and we're going to extrude it all the way up to about here. In fact, if you go into your front orthographic view, you're going to take that just a little bit higher than the height of the bathtub. Then you're going to tab out of edit mode and go G, X, and move this till it is in your front orthographic view, just past the bathtub here. And then you're going to go into your right orthographic view, hit Z, once again, just go into wireframe. Then you can go G, Y, and move this guy to the back of the bathtub here. Just like that. And now we can go into our front orthographic view again, tab into edit mode, and with that top face still selected, we can bring it just above our bathtub here, then hit E to extrude it up about that much, select the front face here now, go back into your front orthographic, and then go E to extrude it forward, just till it's over the bathtub, and then E to extrude one more time, just like that. Select the bottom face here and then hit E to extrude that down to about there. Now there's several things you can do here. If you want, you can select all of these top faces, G, Z, bring them down to make that a little bit flatter. It really depends on the look you're going for, how elegant you want it to look, the kind of style that you're going with. But I find having this guy here thicker and then having this one here a little bit skinnier or narrower at the top looks a little bit better. And this is actually based off of some water outlets that I've actually seen at like those bathroom stores where they have like all of the appliances and things you can add to your bathroom. So it's just like a really modern one. So once we've done that part of the modeling, we can just tab out of edit mode, and we're going to go Control A and just apply the scale. That's important because at the moment this looks way too sharp. So we're going to go to our modifiers and just give this guy a bevel modifier. I'm going to come here to the amount again, and we're just going to bring that bevel down till it's a lot smaller, and then obviously bump the segment count up to about 3 or 4. Go to object and make sure to enable shade smooth on this guy. So here we have our modern faucet here. So now we can add just a little water tap here, which is just going to be a single tap, but with a side-to-side water temperature adjustment. So you've probably seen these. So let's just go Shift A, just add in a cylinder for ourselves. And with the cylinder here, let's just tab into edit mode quickly. This is super simple. We're just going to select this top face, hit Shift D to duplicate it, right click to let go, and then EZ to extrude it up like that, about a quarter of the height of the bottom one. Tab out of edit mode and let's scale this guy down like this, and then put it on top of this guy over here. Scale it down. I'm just in my front orthographic view, and once again just go to your right orthographic view in wireframe and just move it till it's sitting on top of here, just roughly in the middle like that. And then back in your camera view, whoops, what happened here? I moved my camera. Okay, so we're not in camera view, so just go back into your front orthographic view. I thought I had a camera set up for some reason. We can just move this guy back a little bit more, just about here. Hit Control A and apply to scale, and then just give this guy a bevel modifier. Also make the limit method angle, and then bring that amount down quite a bit. And then bump the segment count up, just like that. Go to Object and enable Shade Smooth. So now we have this here, and what you can do is go Shift D to duplicate it, bring it out here, and then go R -90. Now I'm doing this in my front orthographic view, that's why it's doing it like this. I'm going to hit S just to scale that guy down and then bring it in here. Tab into edit mode. Select all of these front faces and just go G, X and move it forward about that much. And there we have it. Now we have our modern tap, as you can see, just right over here, that can be adjusted. But it doesn't really matter. This is not going to be animated, so just sitting there like that will be fine. And we can always adjust that a little bit later. Okay, so now what we can do is add in some of the decorative wall effect over here. So that's going to be done via a array modifier. So once again, just simply add in a cube here and just scale that guy down. Just small like that. You can always adjust the scale. Just add in an array. Come here to the X factor, make it 0. Go to the Z and make it 1.2 like that. And then we can come here to the count and just bump it up. For now, just bump it up to about 14, then go G and then X and move it against the wall here to the left. And then we're going to go S, Y and scale that along the Y. So S, Y and keep scaling it. S, Y. And we just want it to be the same length as the wall here. So S, Y. Just like that. That's looking good. And it's up to you what scale you want to go for. I'm just going to maybe scale it down just a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more flat. So I'm going to go S, Z and just scale it down so it's a little bit flatter. Something like that. And then I'm going to come here to the count and just drag it up till it's filling up this whole wall over here. Till to the very top. So that's looking okay, but it's still looking too sharp. So let's just go Control A and just apply the scale. And let's give this guy a bevel modifier. And let's just bring that amount down on the bevel just so it's not too big. And then bump the segment count up and go to Object and enable Shade Smooth. So now we have this nice wooden paneling grid, whatever you want to call it. And the side here, just going to give our bathroom a decorative edge, just make it look really cool. So our bathroom is really coming together so far. It's been really simple with some easy modeling techniques. But what we're going to do now is just to make things look even a little bit better. We're going to add in some very simple shelving. So what we're going to do is once again just add in a simple cube, S, Z, and scale it down flat like this, about that much. Then we're going to go S, Y, and scale it along the Y. Now this is up to you how long of a shelf you want, but I'm just going to go something like that. Then tab into edit mode and go G, X, and move this guy forward till it's touching right on that green axis line. And we're trying to get our origin point right at the back there. And the reason we're doing that, so we tab out of edit mode now we have a scaling point. So if we hit S, we can scale along that origin point there. And that's just going to make it easy once we place it against the wall. So you can essentially go into your front orthographic view and go G, and move it right up against the wall here till it's touching, and then go G, Y, and slide it along the wall here. So I'm going to place mine just about there, and you have the advantage now of hitting S and scaling it, and it'll scale along the wall there, and it won't penetrate through the wall. So that's really good. So just find a scale that works for you. I'm just going to go something like that, maybe S, Y, scale it a little bit more on the Y. Control A and apply the scale, and then I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to go Shift D and then Z, bring another one up to here. It's maybe something like that. Select the bottom one and then go G, X, bring it in a little bit. And then I'm just going to select one of these by themselves, Shift D, bring it up. Then I'm going to go S, Y, and scale it down on the Y. And then go G, Y, move it out to here. S, X, scale it down to X. And all I'm doing here is just placing another one in here, just on the end. Maybe a little bit skinnier this way. So this is completely up to you how you want to do this. This is just kind of like a modern shelf. Grab the top face, G, Z, and bring it up till it's touching the top one here. And there we have it. Just select that guy and Shift D, X, sorry, Y, Shift D, Y, and just move it to the back here, just so it's sitting right on there on the end there. So now we have this modern shelf. Tab out of edit mode and just go give this guy a bevel modifier and bring that amount down so the bevel isn't too big, and then bump up the segment count, go to object and enable shade smooth. So now we have a super simple modern shelf here. And by the way, you can come in here super easy in edit mode, just go to vertex select and then select the vertices you want and just move them up or down to adjust the height of your shelf. And you can also scale along the Y, and that's going to make it longer or shorter. So you have a very simple, very easy to model modern shelf here, and you can kind of move it around. Just find something that works. You can even duplicate it, make multiples, completely up to you. So just leave it like that for now. Let's just quickly add in a camera. That's important. So let's go into a front orthographic view. Shift A, just add in a camera. G, Z, bring it up to just a little lower than the middle of your scene. And with this camera still selected, we're going to go to our camera settings here, and we want to make the focal length something like 24, so we have a wider view. And with our camera here selected, we can hit 0 to go into camera view. And this is what we're going to see. Now for me, personally, I'd like to go with my camera selected, I'm going to hit G, then my middle mouse button, and just pull back. I'm moving the camera back. Another thing you can do, you can also just go G and then Y to move the camera. There's different ways you can do it, but just I'm moving my camera back a little bit till it looks a way that just works for me. So this can be anything. It really depends on what you're going for. So in fact, if you look at my scene here, I'm going to move my camera. I'm not all the way to the back, but just about there. Okay, right about there. And that's looking pretty good. So these shelves over here, I'm just going to grab both of them and just scale them down a little bit. They're a bit too big because they're only meant for like towels and small products. Then I go G, Y, and just move them in closer to the bathtub, like that. Then go to my camera view. Okay, so they should be placed around about there. Like I said, it's completely up to you. You can spend as much time as you want. I'm just going to place those two modern shelves right there. Maybe bring this one up a little bit. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Like I said, we don't have to actually put the window plane in there. You can if you want. I'm just going to leave it for this tutorial. But this is pretty much all of our modeling done. Now, like I've shown you in some of my other examples, I've gone and put some other models in here like plants and all sorts of things, but that's just generally things you can do later on after you've done all the materials and set up the lighting. This is a little extra little details. So this is more about, this part one here is more about just modeling the bathroom itself and just kind of getting the bulk of the work out of the way. So this is pretty much our little bathroom here done. We've got a bathtub, we've got our water feature here, got our shelves, we've got our decorative wall here, and we've got a window. So this is part one modeling completed. So what we're going to do now in part two is we're going to start with our materials, and obviously we're going to set up our lighting and get our render settings in place as well. So that's going to be part two.